Hello back, everybody. It is 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we are going to switch now to English. The rapid growth of online supermarkets is our topic, and I'm trying to introduce you a little bit with that little text. So online supermarkets are currently experiencing a rapid growth. The food delivery market is being radically changed, and the competition is increasing. In addition to young startups, established supermarkets are also focusing on online retail. The panel with e-commerce expert Udo Kießlich, Saad Saeed from FLINK, and Norbert Hegmann from myEnso gives exciting insights into the current developments of the emerging industry and discusses the importance these changes have for the distribution strategies of food startups. Your host will be none other than Christoph Schepan, Managing Partner of Next Commerce Accelerator. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you for the introduction and thank you for having us. It's very, very great and nice opportunity to be here to talk today about the rapid growth of online supermarkets, the challenges, but also we want to talk about the challenges from a food startup perspective, not only the platforms itself. So as just introduced, we have Udo, Norbert and Saad here today, who are experts in their respective field when it comes to this topic. So I hope this will be very interesting. We're going to take some questions in the chat, but afterwards we're also going to be available in the lounge for further questions you might have to ask us. So without further ado, let's dive into it. First off, I want to ask everyone, we've seen in the last, I wouldn't even say months, it's weeks, that these online supermarkets, so Gorillas was named, Saad is here from FLINK, others are coming, and there are also established players. For instance, Norbert is here from myEnso, who do things a little bit different. He's going to talk about that. But in a total, also we've seen, despite the growth and opportunities, quite negative things. There were like protests going on against Gorillas and so on. So what do you think, all of you, is this growth and this hype going to last after Corona, or is this really this delivery service industry right now, this quick delivery service industry, just inflated and boosted by Corona? Or do you think this is really going to stay at this level once Corona hopefully fades away? So this would be a very interesting question.
Yes, I think maybe I can start off. First of all, thanks everyone for having me over. Yes, I think maybe I have a bit of a biased opinion over here, but what we definitely see is that less than 1% of the supermarket market, or basically the grocery market, is online at the moment, even in Germany. So the market is still really massive, and the online players that are coming in are just starting. So what we've seen is that the demand has just exponentially been growing, and even with COVID situation and cases going down, summer's coming as well, we still keep on growing. And there's quite a few cities that we still need to expand into. So at least from my side, I see that there is still massive opportunity right now, and we're just at the beginning.
All right. Udo, so I want to ask you, since you're an e-commerce expert and food expert, you've been around for a long time. Do you think this has changed the behavior of people, just to expect they can also order food at the same, let's say, quality and speed as they would do on Amazon?
Well, I think that especially since Corona, the awareness that there are food delivery services, e-food services, quick services, especially in urban areas, has increased quite a lot. But there have been concepts even before Corona which were successful and fast growing. So I guess there is, in each of the top 20 cities in Germany, let's say 5 to 6 operators available. Some of them are quick service providers, some of them are specialists like Flaschenpost, some of them are full assortment provider like Rewe or Amazon Fresh or Bringmeister. So there is a wide variety of services. In some towns there's a competition to Amazon Fresh, but Amazon or Amazon Fresh is not that dominant in the e-grocery market in Germany. So I think people understand there is this vertical with operators, and some of them take advantage of that. And I think it's even after Corona, it will continue to grow as one of the fastest growing verticals in Germany. Let's say 30 to 40% in the next 2 years, I guess, for each year. And so that's promising.
Right, very interesting. So let me ask Norbert, since you're the founder and CEO of myEnso, and you've done things a little bit different also now. You still co-own or maintain stores. So what's your view? Also, you went into delivery. Also, maybe the contrast between having these local stores near you and also having the option of getting things delivered. So what is your take on this?
My opinion is the same, that we will see a growth. Actually, I'm coming originally from a research company, so I'm always looking to numbers. Well, I like to look to numbers. And the market is really big, with 190 billion euros per year in the fast-moving consumer sectors. And as Saad said, we have only 1%, 2%, or 3% right now in online business. We will see growth, but we have to look differently to urban areas and also to landscape or countryside areas. I think these areas will develop differently because there are different needs. But in the end, it will grow definitely also after Corona.
Right, very interesting. So we're kind of having the same opinions. Things are going to stay. So let's put aside just for a second the platform itself, the growth, and also the startups, the food startups. We're going to talk about them in a second. But maybe we also gotta nowadays talk about sustainability. And one thing is transportation. Obviously, I mean we've seen some of them, or most of them, are using bicycles or e-scooters, but also. Maybe to Saad or Norbert, what about the packaging? And also sustainability is much more than just the environment. It's also coming down to people. So and this is also. So what is your take on this? Is this good how it is right now, or do you think, well, if this continues to grow as projected, there needs to be some other form of delivery, packaging? Maybe we know in Germany the so-called Unverpacktläden. Is there maybe something coming in this direction, or do you think it's just no? It's maybe e-scooters, but that's it for the long run.
I guess just like you mentioned, the whole transportation is already one step in the right direction, going away from trucks and going into this whole e-bikes era. Packaging is definitely a big challenge. One thing that we already think would be a bit of an easy win is if we could have it in such a way that we could reuse it, so that our riders can then take back the bags the next time a user orders. That's something that would still be a relatively quicker win before having these stations where people can then pick it up. But I do see that as these paper bags, even they start piling up quite a bit after a few weeks, especially when we have people who are then ordering 3 to 4 times a week. So I think the first step would be more or less taking back the bags that we were giving previously, because our riders have to go back anyways, empty-handed back to our hubs. And then the next stage would be something more or less sophisticated, like how you mentioned.
Maybe to add to the comments by Saad, at the moment, more or less, you could say that most e-food concepts have a better footprint than stationary concepts anyway, because there's a shorter supply chain and there's less traffic to the stores. And that's maybe one of the most important points. There is usually less waste because there's a higher turnover, better predictability, higher quality, especially on the fruits and vegetable side. So that's already quite good, and I would say better than a classic concept. And when you look, for example, at Picnic as one operator with an own fleet, and I think sooner or later others will follow, they have the whole fleet is e-mobility. So there is no CO2 emissions, and of course you can come up with even more environmentally friendly solutions on the packaging side, on the product side, and on the transportation side. But I think already these concepts have achieved quite a lot, I would say.
Yeah, I think so too. Maybe Norbert, I think sustainability and regionality play a role and go hand to hand. So as you have local stores and also local products, or even the delivery service, do you think this regionality of either stores and or products or services, as we've seen, for instance, Udo mentioned Frische Post and others, and also you, for instance, specifically, do you think this is going to be a more important topic in the future, or do you think it's rather be nice to have, but not really playing a big part in sustainability?
My opinion is you have to look to the complete supply chain and all factors. Of course, like regionality is a very important topic also in our stores behind me. We have 30% of our products coming from nearby. So of course, that's a big issue. But also the human factor, of course, is a big factor. How I treat people. And in our concept, the people are stakeholders in our company. And if I come again to numbers, and I believe, I look to 190 billion euros turnover, this will be not handleable by bicycles in total. So Gorilla and FLINK, of course, they have the niche, but I don't believe that they will terminate the traditional trade. Plus, they have to learn that also the human factor and how I treat these people is more and more coming up as a big issue.
Yeah.
But also actually not only human, also animals, landscape. There are a lot of further things which has to take in consideration. It's, I think, in my opinion, really important nowadays to look to the complete picture.
Right, I totally agree. Maybe for those who don't know what myEnso is and does, maybe you can just explain us a little bit in a couple of sentences what myEnso does, how it's special, and also I know that also you went through some changes from just being local also to delivering online. Maybe you can just explain us a little bit about what's different between you and maybe the others around.
Yeah. Actually, as I said, I have founded almost 20 years ago a market research company called Bonsai. And one topic which was really interesting to see always, if we did research, the companies, the big companies like Coca-Cola, etc., they not always do what people say. And the idea was to found a supermarket concept or a digital fast-moving consumer platform, which is driven by the people, so that the people decide which products are placed in our supermarket, which kind of delivery they are looking for, and also the stores like behind me, what kind of concepts they want to have. So it's a complete 100% consumer-driven concept. And what we have is actually, we have an online supermarket, traditional, normal online supermarket. In addition to that, we have a 24/7 digital store concept, which is the fusion of a small little store plus the online supermarket. And we're supporting, as a third important sector, we support food pioneers, like products which are challenger, which are local products, has a better footprint, etc. These products having, because our people have the last word, a very strong opinion in our concept.
It's quite interesting. It's complete, or not complete, but a whole nother approach. So maybe let's switch to the topic of food startups, since we had a food innovation camp, we're going to come back to the platforms later. But let's just assume everyone that now there, or not assume actually, but there are a lot of new food products coming, new food startups are coming. And the traditional challenge was and is to fight your way through retail. You have to be placed in retail in order to get traction. It's very tough, very long, I wouldn't say even battle to get listed at the big supermarket chains. So could these online supermarkets that deliver so fast and are much more flexible and faster, could there be also a valuable option for upcoming food startups just to sell samples or try to get their way in? Maybe Saad, you can.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's a very exciting segment of partners that we have seen, and we've already also partnered up with quite a few new startups. And I think the data and the insights that we're able to provide to these companies as well is quite interesting, because then we can actually say what kind of segments actually ended up ordering these products as well, what was their feedback, everything when it's online, especially in the age of social media. We have quite a engaging community that also then interacts with this and then also posts what their outlook on these different products were. So, and for us to start integrating these and then also getting them listed on our platform, the lead cycles are sometimes less than a week. So all that we need to have is then just an agreement with them, have them shipped to our warehouse, and then a few photos made, and then we can already start shipping that out. So I think that's something that our customers have also kind of mentioned, that they quite like this new concept idea as well, like stuff that can't usually get in the supermarket in like the big players. So it's I think kind of a win-win situation for both of us.
Very interesting. So much like the Amazon Marketplace, but just for food startups, so to speak. So do you think that companies like yours, like FLINK, could develop or white label their own food products in the future?
I think that's definitely an option. It's not something that we've been too heavily thinking of at the moment, just because there's quite a lot of more low-hanging fruits out there, and there are such good food startups that are coming on all the time that we can actually have some exclusive deals with as well. So it's more about getting some really good partners for now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what you just mentioned earlier on, and this also goes to Udo and Norbert, I think the holy grail in retail is still data ownership. So in a traditional non-Amazon retail or smart retail, you have the receipt at the checkout, but nothing else. You don't have data. It's not bind to person. It's not bind to age or something else. So this, I think, as Saad said, is a great difference when testing early on products. You know where they go. Maybe Udo, let's imagine we would do food startup. What way would you try to go? Would you go for classic retail, or would you pursue online? Would you, I mean, for some food startups, let's say beverages and so on, you could even go online if they're, let's say, luxury or anything. But the commodities, if it's a 4 or 5 euro product, you can't have 4 or 5 euro shipping. So you're actually probably bound to online supermarkets. But from your perspective, what tactic or way would you use if you would do a food startup now?
Well, in terms of distribution or getting, let's say, shelf space with one of the retailers, be it stationary or online, I think I still would try, of course, to get relationships with one of the big 4 or 6 stationary retailers. But besides that, it depends very much on the assortment, on the product. I think there are a couple of, let's say, niches where I would try a kind of direct-to-consumer approach, especially if the value of the product is rather high or it has a repeat character. So let's say 20, 30 euros, and you can store it for a couple of months. Then it could make sense to order it directly, to sell it directly. The third option is to approach an online retailer. I think the classic retailer with a big assortment, let's say Rewe or Bringmeister, or maybe in the future Rolik, I think it will be tough for a small startup to get a footprint into their assortment. But there are 2 options where you could somehow, let's say, have a special angle. The one option would be that they have a very special logistics concept, yeah, and you are just around the corner, yeah, in Munich somewhere, for example, and you say, we have here interesting local assortment, don't you have interest? So have a short, there's a short distance to the warehouse. And the other option is, if one of the key competitors has a kind of very special local angle, for example, ice cream or a liquor or beer, or let's say oat-based milk substitutes, for example, yeah. So let's say somebody has a very localized footprint at Gorillas. I would be a manufacturer. I would take a look at Getir, at Flink, and so on, and see what's their footprint in this assortment. And if there's nothing, or if they have only the international brands, you could make a pitch and approach Saad, for example, and say, here, I have a very interesting local product. Don't you have interest? Let's talk. Yeah. So that are the things where I see a kind of opportunity, even for smaller startups, but you have to be fast because the shelf space is very limited. And I guess you don't need 4 different ice cream maker from Berlin in a quick service.
I totally agree with that. So approach is a good topic. So Norbert and Saad, let's say again, Udo's food startup is on the market. So how would actually food startup approach you? Are you actively scouting? I mean, I understand, Saad, at your point, you have quite other topics for now, but would there be a scouting, and also how much of really new, completely new products in terms of brands would you take percentage-wise? Because I guess most customers, if they go shop online, they have certain products in mind. Some do discovery, but probably you can't have 80% of complete new products no one knows. But maybe these 2 questions to both of you, like if I'm a food startup and we have some here watching right now, how would they approach you? What kind of information you need, and actually how much or how many food startups are you willing to try and place?
In my opinion, or the easiest way to get in our store is by a wish of a customer, because that is the normal way in our platform. Customers are wishing new products, and we are going to the producer and asking to list the product. So it's a complete different way, like the traditional big 4, 5, 6 chains. And I think that's actually also the best way to go to myEnso or to the other platforms, because for storytelling, I think the e-commerce is even the better starting point. As I said, I'm coming from the research part, and if you go for beverage, for example, you go normally to the gastro sector first, and then you're going to the traditional trade. On and off trade is the opposite around there. And the same I would do here. First of all, going to e-commerce platforms, making a good storytelling, and then taking these good success stories and go to the traditional trade. Because in the end, if we only have 3 or 5% e-commerce, you need still the traditional chains. And this will be, in my opinion, for a long time.
Yeah. So basically in Flink at the moment, we have a whole assortment category team, and their focus for getting new products in is then really divided into 2 categories. One is really the ones that the customers are wanting. So this people can then give feedback in our app. They can basically, whenever they don't find something in a search menu, we have different feedback forms where they can then enter certain brands and products that are missing. And then as soon as we see that there's a little bit of more responses for a particular brand, then we have special then talks with them. Those are still easier to integrate because it's pretty straightforward. There's a demand for this within our customer segment. And all that we need to do is just partner up with them and then integrate. The second one are all these which customers don't know about even. So they don't even know that they would want them, and all these new brands that are coming. And For this, we basically on our website also have at partners@goflink.com where we take all of these new requests for new brands, and we actually depend on quite heavily on our own team right now. So we have over more than 1,000 employees at the moment. And what we do is we basically spread these testers quite a bit among our own company. And then we have these feedback forms where people can give different ratings, from different wines to protein snacks to ready-made meals and so on. And then we basically have certain winners from there that then we then try to integrate. So that's more or less the approach that we're taking.
I mean,
maybe yeah. Christoph, just to add,
sure.
For the audience, the beauty of, let's say, rather decentralized concepts, yeah, is that you can, let's say, even if you have crossed the first or second level, you can, let's say, test it in a local market, let's say in Hamburg, or you can test it in Leipzig and see if the product regionally, or even in only one hub, yeah, if that's logistically feasible, you can test it for a while. And because most of the customers either buy once a week or every second week, you quickly get data on how things are performing, how things are performing in micro depot A versus B, what type of baskets you are getting, is there some cross-selling or other effects? And then you can learn from that and either delist the product, yeah, to be honest, or you can make a contract and then ramp it up.
Totally agree. Let me. I mean, Saad, filling out forms sounds like a lot of fun, but do you actively suggest new food products in the app right now, and or could this be also a future paid advertising slot in the app? Just like Amazon is heading to promote, obviously with great care. You don't want to ruin the app, but let's say there's a beverage section and there would be some system, either you suggest, like try this, or someone is actively, like a food startup is paying to have their product shown at the top or something else. Could this be something interesting for the future?
Yes, definitely. So product discovery is something I'm going to be investing quite heavily on, because the kind of user profiling that you also get to have is, I think, especially in the grocery space, quite unparalleled to any other sector, because you can tell if a person is vegetarian, how many people are in the household, do they have any pets, what is their price sensitivity. There's a lot more, I feel, even more than any consumer goods or so on Amazon, that you can actually get by just finding out when people buy certain groceries. And to kind of leverage that on a whole aggregated view is something that we really want to be doing. So right now, everyone just gets a standard view on the products based on the best-selling categories. But moving on, what we definitely want to do is have it based on your past purchases, based on what you've been scrolling, what you have actually put in your basket, all of these different things as well. I believe that's where we would really be able to leverage this data and really take use of having this online platform compared to the offline one.
Sounds interesting. I have one more question for you and then one for Norbert. So you mentioned a lot of data that has been generated, obviously, from you. And I think it's great for the food startups to just stop investing in black boxes and they get valuable data. They don't have to pay surveys. But so what kind of data, and is this data anonymized, or let's say I'm listed as a premium supplier within FLINK, so I provide you with my food product. So what kind of data do I get back? Obviously, with all terms to data privacy and so on, I assume. But yeah, what do I actually anonymizing, or what do I get for my product?
It's all on a very aggregated basis. So more or less on which sector or region have been having more of your product, what are similar products that people have bought that have also bought your products. What we really want to be doing also is that we can support with different pricing as well, try to see, okay, once we actually had certain prices in this region, and then we can really start to do these different A/B testing to try to see, okay, which one had better conversions much faster. So bringing a lot of these different advantages that e-commerce already has had over the offline world and then bring this to groceries as well.
Yeah.
You really have this fast feedback loop on how your product performs with different segment, and also how you present it with different images, prices, and so on.
Great. Let's talk about retail for a moment, because also a little disclaimer, I have invested also in a digital checkout app called Koala. So we actually, or the startup is also tackling this data gap that retailers are facing. And I know, Norbert, I think you're also experimenting with some sort of checkout app. So if people are going to the store and there's, let's say, a shelf, or there are new food products in this physical store at this part, and people are checking them out with their profile, do you think you can also provide similar value to the food products that sell in a local market?
I think so. What we are doing is we have like a self-checkout cashier. So what we are not having right now is investing in an app. So you have to go to a terminal, and at the terminal you have your card, your myEnso card, which will be placed on the self-checkout cashier, and so we know which customer we have in front of us. And then we have, of course, all data like in comparison to the normal classical online customer. So journeys, actually we see it's also quite interesting how much he's buying online versus in our physical stores. And what we always also provide for the producers is, if you look to our store, we have always the concept of two brands. Like we have the anchor brand in the category, like Nutella. And next to Nutella, we place a Food Pioneer product, which is a challenger product. And if the Food Pioneer products get the data from us, he's not only get the data from himself, he's also getting the performance of his product in comparison to the traditional products. So that is quite interesting as well for the traditional trade, because then you have, as Rewe, an idea of, if you place the product similar, what kind of performance you get with a new product. So that is also data which you get as a Food Pioneer from our side.
Very, very interesting. Very, very good way actually to enhance. I mean, we should probably talk after this because of the checkout app. But I think this is all coming down. So that leads me to the next questions to all of you. So, I mean, Norbert, you've been around for a long time in this market as a founder. Udo as an expert, also founder. But it still feels to me that this recent development of all these food delivery services, I mean, Amazon Fresh aside, they didn't manage to get the growth. Rewe was sleeping. I'm not sure what Edeka is doing, but it feels rather short and aggressive. So what do you think if we look forward? I mean, we talked about Corona, but what do you think are other trends that might influence this? Is there something coming additionally? I mean, what could be coming in this concept next? Would it be super local products? Would it I don't know. There's some innovative concepts also about very fresh food, especially meat and fish is very, very challenging. So what do you think in terms of trends? So what's next? I mean, there are all these platforms, they deliver in 10 minutes, which is a high promise, which is hard to fulfill. I guess Saad can tell about this. But now we're on the very fast, I get this very fast stuff, but what is next? What do you imagine could be the next step within these delivery platforms to enhance the value for customers?
If we are looking to the market, I think the market is quite complex. We have different shopping missions. For FLINK and Gorilla, the shopping mission is I need it quickly, immediately, because I have guests or whatever. If I'm a family and I have to look to budgets, I have a different mission. I need cheap prices. So I think in my opinion, there's not one solution and one big trend which beats all. I think we will see that this huge market will be supported by different solutions. And one thing what I believe in is that we will see in the future more digital purchase. What I mean with this is that we will have hybrid solutions, so that the classical local store and the online business gets closer to each other. So that is something what I believe in, and of course the complete sector of how the food industry will change in the future in question of mass production of footprints, etc. So on the industry side, there will be, I think, a huge change in the future, because obviously we cannot all eat meat as much as today. There has to be changes if we want to live on this planet for a longer time than 50 years. So I think there not one answer on your question. There will be different answers for different missions and different situations.
Saad.
Yeah, I can completely agree with Norbert here. I think the market has quite a few different problems that still need to be solved. I think back in May, when I started this, or started getting my hands a bit dirty with my co-founder Nico in the whole grocery market space, we actually started off with an Instacart model, where we were bringing groceries from all of the different supermarkets out there. So Rewe, Aldi, and then the local Hamburg, Budni, bakeries, and so on. So we had around 30,000 products in our website, and we would deliver it the next day, basically. And the kind of customer segment that we had was completely different. The average customer age that we had was around 55 years old. And the basket sizes were around 75 euros as well. So that was very different to where we are right now, where we basically have a product range size of around 2,500 products, and we get them super fast. Because one of the steps that we really had to take was because of the customer adoption. Because the previous customer segment, even though we could see that there was a demand, but the customer adoption from this customer segment was just not fast enough, that we saw that compared to what we have right now. So I think from our side, what we would then be going pretty much biased to is which one of the problems, so to say, we could solve and have the customers adopt to it pretty fast as well. Because for sure, different people want prices. Some people really want a big, wider range as well. But it's all about which ones are going to be actually using the product and then also recommending to their friends and so on faster as well. So I think that's what's going to dictate where we go as a company quite a bit. And especially, I believe consolidation would be quite a big thing. So having not only just groceries, but also meals, and then at certain points, certain electronics as well, and so on. Similar to what we've seen different companies abroad also doing, increasing their selection of products very carefully. I think this could be quite a bit of a game changer, and especially something that then differentiates us as well in the future.
Yeah, maybe to add to that, a few thoughts. I think it very much depends from a customer perspective where you're located in Germany. For example, let's say take the town of Kiel or the town of Freiburg. They don't have much of competition there in terms of online services. So one trend will be most likely that the different operators expand in the different cities. Let's say to each city with 200,000 or more people. So that's one trend I think we see the next 12 to 24 months. The second one is hopefully for the customer that the operational processes get much better. I think there are often a lack of capacity in terms of transportation. So there's no delivery slot. And the other pain point is there's a high level of out of stock. of your most popular items or your personalized items, and that's always a pain point if you want to really reliably switch to a certain service, and every second week your most popular item is sold out for whatever reason. So these things have to be more professionalized, and that will happen over time, I'm pretty sure. And the last line of thinking is coming back to what Saad mentioned, and also looking to what's the level of professionalism in the UK is, for example, that the front end will get more personalized. So I think, first of all, they start with customer segmentation, and the next level would be personalization. And that means that the recommendation engine is getting much better. The front end looks somehow familiar, although it looks totally different than another customer will shop. I think these are the trends I see for the moment, and that's, I think, very promising for the market.
Yeah, thank you. So I as a spectator, I can just agree to that. So a couple of more things. So what you just said, Udo, I pretty much can imagine that not only everyone gets their own interface, but maybe also everyone gets their own price. And we haven't talked about search pricing also. I don't know if that's ever going to come. Cold beer in summer is more expensive than in the winters. We don't know. But let's talk about, which is also, I think, interesting for the food startup. Let's talk about repeat orders, autofill and prediction to all of you. So Saad and Norbert specifically. So let's say a customer has found their ideal shopping cart. Do you think more and more is going to be automated in an auto refill thing, or is it even going to be predicted? So you know when, likely after you have some data in the future, you know when things are ordered, so you can adjust. Or do you think no, it's actually the customers love to discover every time, want to search the products again. They want to, I mean, they're ordering all the time anyway. And also let me add, do you think a form of subscription in whatever form might also be interesting? So this, I think, would be very interesting, because if I order again and again, it gets repetitive. So what do you think about this?
I think there you can see a good difference between Saad and myEnso. In our online supermarket, so nationwide, not in our local stores behind me, we have a very strong focus on special products. So here we have customer journeys which are interested in finding for every shopping mission a special number of new products. I think for Saad it's totally different, so therefore you have to look what kind of missions you have in front of you. In our local stores, there we have a lot of repeat rates of special products, and there we can do, of course, things like a service, refill service, etc. But on the online supermarket on our side, we have the special interest and people coming to us to discover new products. So there is counterproductive if we do like supporting always the same things. But to add one comment to Udo, our next big development thing is individualization. We have for next year in our IT development department, the biggest development issue that we want to have when we have 1 million customers, 1 million single shops, because perhaps I don't eat meat, so I'm not interested in meat products. So the level of individualization is actually another trend which we will see in the future. So that is something what I can agree to Udo as well.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense as well. I think from our side, especially in terms of product discovery, we see two different kinds of segments of customers. One is really who know exactly that they want to search certain products, and then they even are basically just using the search menu and then fulfilling the orders. And this other segment that just keeps on scrolling and not even making orders. So this is basically what we've seen at times when they have finished an order, but then they still come, and then especially sections like wine or fitness brands or so on, not on the fruits and vegetables side where people don't really need too much inspiration, but these other segments where something could come new as well. I think this is where people are a lot more excited about finding out new stuff as well that they've not seen before. And over here, I think based on seeing similar to what...
Sehr schön. Hallo Jochen, toll, dass ihr da seid. Ich würde gerne heute mit euch darüber sprechen, wie ihr zu Giganten geworden seid. Einmal kurz vorab, Jochen ist Vorsitzender der Geschäftsleitung der Rewe Nord und Ralf ist Geschäftsführer der DS Unternehmensgruppe, die ja vielleicht bis vor 6 Jahren, sage ich mal, gar nicht so viele Menschen kannten außerhalb der Handelswelt, bis Ralf Dümmel als Investor und Löwe in die TV-Gründershow Die Höhle der Löwen gekommen ist. Und inzwischen dürfte das doch, glaube ich, relativ vielen Startups bekannt sein, wer du bist, lieber Ralf. Und ich würde gerne von euch heute ein bisschen hören, wie ihr denn zu Giganten geworden seid. Das ist ja ein sehr mächtiges Wort, was ein Aufklebername, Marke, die euch das Foodcamp aufgedrückt hat, dem ihr aber sehr gerecht werdet. Und Jochen, du warst ja nicht immer Vorsitzender der Geschäftsleitung von Rewe Nord. Wie fing denn deine Handelskarriere eigentlich an?
Ja, erstmal hallo Sanja, moin.
Idea. I think especially in urban areas, this subscription idea becomes, I guess, less and less relevant or even popular, because if there are lots of services who delivery instant or delivery in 2 or 3 hours or deliver for free with a minimum threshold of 40 euros tomorrow, why should I make a long-term contract to deliver diapers or food? Of course, there can be special, let's say, features where you make a subscription once a month, diapers 5% off or something like that. But it's technically always complicated. You don't get much praise from the customer. In the worst case, they make a cancellation 3 months after. So I think at least in the urban areas, the subscription idea is not really dominant. It might be different for special niches in rural areas, but in urban areas, I think it's not very attractive.
Yeah, I think also, thank you very much, all of you. I think this is obviously there's some things to see here on this point. So we have these big cities versus really out in the countryside is completely different. Also from a profitability sense for the providers, you probably cannot serve every household in every town within 10 minutes. I think this is a huge challenge. But back to the topic, also for the food startups. So or maybe Norbert and Saad, do you think, and also Udo, that let's say as a food startup is trying to get a foothold onto the market, do you think in your shops free samples that are provided within the grocery cart or could be added for free in the cart would be an option for a food startup just to get some traction, or do you think no, it should be rather just full paid and product discovery?
If, for example, for every new customer on our online platform, the welcome box. And in the welcome box, we have a set of 5-6 products, which the new customer gets for free. And in addition to that, we have if you have a basket size of 50 euros, for example, you get also 1 product for free into the basket. And we try, especially for the welcome box, only to use food startup products because as I mentioned, our customer base is more interested in new products, pioneer products, instead of getting a different size of Nutella glass. So therefore, we do always things like that. And I believe if you compare this with a questionnaire, for example, which we do, so that the food startup also gets feedback on how good the product is, and even if the product is understood in the right way, because we see also a lot of new upcoming products which are very different or difficult to understand. So the feedback channel is the second thing. I believe it has not to be always for free of charge, but sampling is definitely a good way of for a new food startup to get feedback from a wider audience.
Yeah, I think just adding on to that, right now, basically what we've seen is that whenever we want to promote a new food startup, one of the things that they have as an advantage over the traditional products is the branding, because it's usually very fresh, it's new. They have certain influencers and so on that they can really leverage. And this is what we also want it to be able to then bring across in our app. So the idea is to not just have these simple pictures, but also integrate videos and then also direct links with our social media as well, so that we would be able to kind of like leverage both of those different things to kind of promote these startups. And I think this is where we could have quite a bit of an edge than compared to offline market as well. So our goal right now is going to be how can we make them or like present it in as of a cool way that really brings out their vision, what they stand for, and all of these different things. And I think that's very difficult to do if you're just in a shelf. And it gets possible if you get a bit of a space in a digital phone or so on. And I think this is something where we would be actually really able to leverage their identity to the customer and then ease up this learning process about what the brand is.
I totally agree. The storytelling is one of the most biggest advantages of the new products or the startup products. But on the platform side, it's always the challenge to make it without disturbing people, because you never know how much a person wants to have information compared to a quick shopping mission. So for the food startup is the best way to communicate. For us as a platform, it's always a challenge to make it as sexy and convenience and not disturbing the normal shopping process.
Yeah, I think so. Just looking on the time, as we wanted to accept one or more questions before we head into the WonderMe. So I think that, again, there's a lot of change happening. Also looking back on some things that have happening, Amazon is still in this space also. We should not forget that for a moment. But I think as a food startup, the time is now. Timing is great if you are a food startup and you want to ship a product versus maybe the pre-internet or pre-delivery times where you just have to rely on, let's say, certain retailers. Now you have much more options to just promote and sell your product than before. And I think this will grow over time. So I'm very much excited and optimistic for the future to see what kind of services are being invented and pushed. And also I'm curious, as most of you, who is going to stay, who still will be here in 3 or 5 years and not next month only. Thank you very much for now, for so far. I hope we have some questions here. Philip, you might moderate. We're running out of time. Otherwise, we're going to be available in WonderMe, hanging out, answering your questions. Again, I want to thank the participants, Saad, Norbert, and Udo, for being here. Also, Philip, everyone who's watching, for having us. Thank you. It was my pleasure, our pleasure to talk.